Greetings, viewers and fellow Star Wars fans. This is Hondo Moonrazer here, proud to present the very first collaboration between myself and Forklifter Matt. Today we have an awesome matchup between Grandmaster Satele Shan and Sith Lord Darth Tyrannus, also known as Count Dooku. With nothing else to say, let's just jump in and see who wins this. Take it away, Matt.
Count Dooku was a renowned Jedi Master, known for his incredible skill with the lightsaber and his unique philosophy. He was regarded by most Jedi Masters to be one of the greatest swordsmen who ever lived. He was the apprentice of Grandmaster Yoda and the High Council member Thame Cerulean, and trained Qui-Gon Jinn. His secret fascination with Sith teachings and Qui-Gon's death in 32 BBY put him over the edge, and Darth Sidious was able to make him his new apprentice, renaming him Darth Tyrannus. He then instigated the Clone Wars and led the Confederacy of Independent Systems against the Jedi Order and the Galactic Republic. Also, he would train many Dark Jedi in the ways of the dark side, including Sora Bulk, Kamari Vosa, Quinlan Vos, Asajj Ventress, and he even trained General Grievous in lightsaber combat. But in 19 BBY, he would be killed at the hands of Anakin Skywalker during the Battle of Coruscant.
The history of the Jedi Order contains many heroes, but very few can match the legacy left behind by Satele Shan. A descendant of the legendary Jedi Revan and Bastil Shan, Satele had the misfortune of serving the Jedi during the time of the ancient Sith Empire's return. However, Shan proved her worth throughout the Great Galactic War, becoming a hero of great renown despite many personal tragedies. The loss of her master and her brief secret relationship did not deter Shan from fighting on the front lines of the war, saving countless innocents and claiming the lives of many more Sith. After the Sith sacking of Coruscant and the tentative peace between the Republic and Empire, Shan continued to make a name for herself, eventually being appointed the title of Grandmaster. With grace and wisdom, Shan led the Jedi Order throughout the Cold War and resulting Second Galactic War. Playing an instrumental part in the defeats of the Sith Emperor and reborn Revan, Shan played an integral part in galactic politics even later in life. Although she eventually passed on into the Force, Shan left a legacy as one of the greatest Jedi in history.
There has been an awakening. Have you felt it?
As I stated earlier, Dooku was an amazing lightsaber duelist. In Yoda Dark Rendezvous, it says that Dooku could only be matched by Yoda and Mace Windu for a certain time frame. Dooku mastered the second form of lightsaber combat, Makashi. Makashi, or the contention form, was the most elegant form of lightsaber combat, which featured tight blade work and graceful footwork, with a focus on avoiding disarmament. It relied on efficiency of movement and precision rather than the erratic, unpredictable nature of Shi-Cho, and was designed for blade-to-blade combat and dueling rather than blast deflection. Fluidity and economy of motion, rather than strength, were brought into the equation of a master of Makashi. Dooku, like other Makashi specialists, used jabs, light cuts, and fencing-style thrusts, rather than a hack-and-slash strategy or overhead strikes, utilizing his uniquely curved blade. He favored a sophisticated approach to combat, with an emphasis on defense and conservative fighting, either redirecting or deflecting his opponent's blade while having pinpoint accuracy and balanced footwork. Not only was Dooku a master of lightsaber combat, but he was also a master tactician. He took note of environmental conditions and took advantage of those conditions, outclassing multiple adversaries using that technique. And while Makashi is strongest against Niman, Shi-Cho, and Juyo, and is weakest against the strength-oriented forms such as Ataru, Dejemso, Juyo, and Vaapad, and the nearly impenetrable defenses of Shirisu, Dooku was able to get past those indifferences. He was able to defeat, on multiple occasions, practitioners of Shirisu, Ataru, Tejemso, Juyo, and Vaapad, showing us that weakness does not matter when Dooku's fighting style is in play. He was also a creative fighter, using his opponent's weaknesses and even strengths against them. Dooku was also a patient fighter. He would wait until his opponent showed any signs of weakness or fatigue had set in, and then he'd be able to easily exploit them, using his finesse and his reserve strength to fight back and undermine his enemy. Also, Dooku didn't use any unnecessary saber strikes or any unnecessary movement, showing a master level understanding of conservative fighting. He made sure that every centimeter, saber strike, and slight movement were useful towards his approach to the duel and his overall fighting style. He was also an expert at chaining in force-based attacks into his lightsaber combos. He used powerful force pushes and force lightning to ragdoll force-sensitive opponents, and had a great knowledge of the telekinesis ability, Draw Close. Draw Close was a force ability that allowed the user to pull enemies in close and then strike them down. Dooku was able to defeat, on multiple occasions, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then immediately after, stalemate Yoda in an intense duel. He also casually defeated Master Thulm and Swordmaster Sora Bulk. Although he defeated them with force abilities, he still drew his blade to match his opponents and disarm them. Dooku was also able to outduel Mace Windu on one occasion. I think it's safe to say that Dooku is incredibly powerful with his blade. He knows what the hell he's doing, and he's one of the greatest duelists to ever grace both the Jedi Order and the Order of the Sith Lords.
Satele Shan, as with most members of her order from the air, was what is known as a battlefield Jedi. Basically, this means that Shan was more focused on battlefield engagements combat. Her skill set was built around defeating one target as quickly as possible and then immediately moving on to a new fight. Now, this is not to say that Shan was useless in a one-on-one fight. Although she had zero problem fighting multiple opponents at once, and blaster wielders at that, she can also carry herself very well in single combat, and is certainly very skilled when it comes to dueling. Although it has never been officially confirmed, it is commonly theorized that Satele Shan's lightsaber form of choice was formed for Ataru, due to her swift and agile fighting style. Although I am inclined to agree, I also believe Shan had some practical knowledge of Shirisu and Naiman, as her conduct in combat also shows signs of these forms. Shan's fighting style was largely based around acrobatic moves and swift strikes, dancing about the battlefield with graceful efficiency. Instructed by 3 different masters, including the battle master Siraj, she had a wide range of skills, including being equally skilled with saber staffs and more normal lightsabers. Shan had proven her skill in combat on a number of occasions. While still an apprentice, she managed to contend with Darth Malgus and Vindican, although she was solidly outclassed. By the time of the Battle of Alderaan, however, she was capable of effortlessly cutting down 7 Sith in seconds, as well as fighting with Darth Malgus on equal terms, only being put on her back foot when her weapon was destroyed. Before that, she managed to even out Malgus's overwhelming physical advantage, at least somewhat, with her superior force powers. She is also mentioned as fighting Darth Mekis to a stalemate before Shan grievously wounded her. At the same time as the Truce of the Republic between the Republic and Empire, Shan was also shown briefly engaging Darth Barriss in 2 separate duels, although neither lasted long enough to establish a victor. By the time of the Treaty of Alderaan, there is very little doubt in my mind that Satele Shan was one of the best duelists in the Order. However, Shan herself admitted as a Grandmaster that she was no longer on the same level as the likes of the Hero of Tython and Barson Thor. That being said, even taking this atropathy into account, I believe there are very few who could stand up against this graceful Lady of War.
Both Dooku and Satele are incredibly powerful duelists that favor the use of unique weapons in battle. While Satele is a duelist primarily based around acrobatics and agility with a slight lack of defense, Dooku's fighting style is based around tight footwork and graceful blade work, with an emphasis on defense and patience. Furthermore, Dooku's economy of motion and conservative fighting style would grant him the victory in a pure lightsaber duel. Although Satele is an amazing duelist, and she is certainly no pushover, we give the advantage in martial arts to Count Dooku. Aside from Count Dooku's incredible dueling abilities, he was also a masterful Force wielder. By the time of Revenge of the Sith, Dooku had mastered Tutaminis, Force Lightning, Force Choke, Telekinesis, Beast Control, and so many more unique Force powers. Tutaminis was the ability to reflect, shield, and absorb Force powers and projectiles. Dooku was able to reflect his own lightning that had been reflected by Grandmaster Yoda, and Dooku was able to match Yoda's incredible Force abilities with his own in their duel on Geonosis. Furthermore, Dooku was able to control a Krayt Dragon using Beast Control, while simultaneously fighting Quinlan Vos. He was also proficient in Quaytech Meditation, being able to conceal his presence in the Force while visiting his master in Coruscant. He was also very skilled in using telekinesis and Force Lightning simultaneously while taking out Anakin on Geonosis. Like I said earlier, Dooku chained his Force powers into his lightsaber strikes, which was a devastating tactic. He used Force Push, Force Lightning, and Draw Close on enemies while wielding his lightsaber. Dooku was able to ragdoll or utterly disable his opponents, even skilled Jedi, by casually using the Force and manipulating his environment to destroy or incapacitate his adversaries. He was able to defeat Master Thulm, Swordmaster Sora Bulk, Quinlan Vos, and a horde of Kiffer while using Force abilities, utilizing Force Lightning, Beast Control, and Telekinesis. Dooku utilized a wide range of unique Force abilities, both of the light and the dark sides of the Force. He was a master of Force powers, and he is definitely comparable with Grandmaster Satele Shan.
Although she was undoubtedly a skilled swordswoman and admiral, as with all Jedi consulars, Satele Shan's focus was first and foremost on the Force. Her strength in this area cannot be denied. Her most obvious and quite possibly most powerful ability in this regard was her considerable skill with telekinesis. She was powerful enough to utterly destroy a large Durasteel door and precise enough to send 3 Sith flying in the air. She also had zero problem using this in suture with her other attacks, felling a huge tree in middle of a blade lock, for example. A good example of Shan's telekinetic prowess was her engagements with the Hexes. Hex droids, similarly to the Yuuzhan Vong, are naturally resistant to Force attacks, making them a threat to most Jedi and Sith. Shan, however, easily ragdolled them, going as far as to disable Hexes with a glance and keep half a dozen of them at bay at once. However, as impressive as all that is, her most advanced ability in this regard was with the Force Push, or more accurately, her ability to create an orb of pure telekinetic power capable of basically destroying a small mountain. Shan was not restricted to telekinesis, however. Possessing a limited ability to see the future and possessing connection to at least one other individual, Shan was notably telepathically as well. One of Shan's masters, Darnella, also theorized that Shan had inherited Bastille Shan's incredible strength with battle meditation as well, something later confirmed during the battle against Revan, where Shan hung back and empowered her comrades rather than get involved directly. However, Shan was slightly less accomplished when it came to defending herself from others' Force attacks. While a Jedi Knight, Darth Malgus managed to send her flying, and later on, Revan replicated this. However, it should be noted that this was a purely dark side Revan on Yavin 4 and possessed by the Sith Emperor. In other words, he likely could have sent anyone flying. And in more normal conditions, Shan erected a Force shield powerful enough to defend herself from the vacuum of space. Shan was also an extremely advanced practitioner of Tutaminis, even being capable of blocking lightsaber blades with her bare hands. As should be expected from a Grandmaster, Satele Shan not only knew how to use her powers to perfectly augment her fighting style, but was also positively overwhelming in a straight-up Force battle. To be perfectly honest, in a straight-up Force powers battle between these two, the most likely outcome is a stalemate. When it comes to traditional Vader-style application of telekinesis, Shan and Dooku largely cancel each other out, as they have both been seen applying these powers in a similar fashion to a similar level of effectiveness. What's more, they have both demonstrated zero problem chaining these powers into their blade work, further perpetuating this stalemate. Going further, Shan's telepathic abilities will be next to useless against a master of the Force like Dooku, while Dooku's Force Lightning will be effortlessly absorbed by Shan's to diminish. Their other powers cancel each other out for the most part, with no noticeable differences either way. I guess one could argue that, unless she's concentrating on it, Shan has a weaker force shield, but this is more than balanced out by Shan's destructive potential with force blasts and waves. Ultimately, Dooku and Shan apply their force powers in very different ways, as befitting their status as a duelist and consular respectively. Dooku prefers to augment his already impressive skill in swordsmanship to the point of being overwhelming, while Shan feels overwhelming force powers in general is just fine, thank you very much. At the end of the day, neither approach is necessarily better, just different, meaning that this comes down to who is the more naturally powerful Force user, and in this regard, Satele Shan and Count Dooku are equals, in every sense of the word.
By the time of the Battle of Coruscant, Count Dooku was 83 years of age, and was definitely not in his physical prime. He is still in remarkable condition for his age and allegiance to the dark side. He appears to not have pale skin or yellow eyes, which are normal signs of dark side degradation. Dooku appeared to have wrinkles and did show his age. However, he was still able to contend with Jedi like Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Sora Bulk, and Yoda, who would seem to have more endurance than him, but he was able to best them. Well, most of them anyway. And while he wasn't much for acrobatics and hand-to-hand combat, he was still able to kick Obi-Wan in the face, land a few blows on Anakin, and he was able to perform slight and subtle jumps, dodges, and flips, while remaining steady. He was also able to kick Anakin backwards while choking Obi-Wan, and he was blindingly fast, faster than Obi-Wan, and he was able to dodge Ventress's, Grievous's, and Savage's attacks on several occasions. In the novel, Labyrinth of Evil, Dooku was considered to be the most agile swordsmaster and lightsaber instructor in the Jedi Temple. So Dooku is not the cripple some make him out to be. He is still highly capable in physical skills, and he was still in remarkable condition given his age. But he did show signs of old age setting in, and he was definitely not in his physical prime during his overall prime.
By the time of the Revan Crisis, Satele Shan was a human female exactly 59 years of age. Despite this, due to her deep immersion in the light side of the Force, Shan remained unaffected by her old age, apart from a few wrinkles and gray hairs. Shan's greatest physical advantage was easily her agility and swiftness. Acrobatics played a big role in her fighting style, with Shan constantly dodging about the battlefield and dancing circles around her enemies. Shan's speed was also notable, as even other trained Force users known for their speed had trouble keeping up with her. Despite her athletic build, Shan was also reasonably strong, able to meet Darth Malgus' blows head-on and taking down Sith warriors with a single. Although Shan is no Kenobi, she could take part in marathon battlefield engagements and shrugged off being flung into a stone pillar. In short, although she's no Yoda either, Satele Shan is physically capable of outdoing most opponents with her speed and agility. Now, before all you Dooku fans, myself included, rage out at this, allow me to explain ourselves. Yes, I realize that recently Dooku has lost several versus matchups solely because he isn't as physically viable as some. Yes, he's certainly not a young man, but Dooku is no weakling and can still hold his own in unarmed engagements. However, we really don't have a choice here but to give the edge to Shan. She's just as fast and strong, more agile, has more stamina, and most importantly, is over 20 years younger. Considering that he kept pace with Yoda and stood up to the likes of Anakin, we can assume that Dooku will have little trouble with Shan's straight-up physical abilities. But if this fight somehow comes down to a prolonged engagement, Shan would likely come out on top. It's far from a decisive edge, but the 60-year-old Lightsaber was pretty much guaranteed to always get the edge against the 80-year-old Darksaber.
Count Dooku wielded a unique lightsaber with a curved hilt. Curved sabers were said to be easier to control, direct, and were more flexible in many different situations. Designed around the sabers of Form 2's prime, Dooku's curved hilt was created to throw opponents off balance and disorient unsuspecting enemies. It also provided better leverage in battle and helped with Dooku's thrusts and slashes. The curved saber was also easier to fit into one's hand, which in turn allowed for expert level finesse and precise blade control. And like Makashi, the curved blade was designed for lightsaber to lightsaber combat, making a master of Makashi even more powerful if they chose a curved blade to duel with. Dooku's curved lightsaber definitely provides a wide array of benefits and advantages.
Satele Shan wielded the traditional weapon associated with the Jedi consulars of the day, ornately designed saber staff reflecting the nature of the user and her order. Unlike traditional consular weapons, however, her weapon was powered by blue lightsaber crystals. Instructed by the Order's Battlemaster, Shan was equally skilled with the use of more traditional lightsabers as well, temporarily carrying a standard green-bladed weapon. Which brings us to one of Shan's most serious weaknesses. Over the course of her career, Shan went through no less than 5 separate weapons. It would seem that even Grandmasters are not immune to the inherent weaknesses of the saber staff. Aside from her weapons of choice, there is really nothing to talk about in terms of equipment for Satele Shan.
Dooku and Satele both wield unique weapons. While Satele wields a saber staff, Dooku wields a curved hilt lightsaber. The saber staff does offer plenty of benefits, but has one glaring problem. The hilt makes for an incredibly large target, large enough for a skilled duelist to destroy and disable. Adversely, the curved saber offers many more advantages and hardly any disadvantages. Furthermore, Satele went through 5 different saber staffs, while Dooku went through one lightsaber his entire career as a Jedi and as a Sith. We give the advantage in weapons and equipment to Count Dooku.
Count Dooku and Grandmaster Satele Shan are two of the most gifted duelists and force wielders of the Jedi Order, and, in Dooku's instance, the Order of the Sith Lords. They both have a strong attunement to the Force, being able to casually utilize Force powers, and they both have taken on a multitude of strong opponents and, in some cases, bested them. Dooku is the superior duelist and has the more effective lightsaber, and while they are equal in Force powers, Satele takes the edge in physical skills. We believe the victor would win 7 out of 10 times, and one of the victories would play out like the duel between Yoda and Sidious on Coruscant.
It would start off with a short display of a few Force powers such as telekinesis, Force lightning, Force push, and Tutu Menace, and then the real meat of the battle would begin. It would be a flurry of lightsaber strikes, mostly from Satele, while Dooku would be mostly on the defensive, studying his opponent and finding out her mistakes and disadvantages. After a short while, Dooku would outmaneuver Satele, and he would go in for the final blow. But Satele is fast and agile enough to dodge it. She realizes that she is at a disadvantage in a pure lightsaber fight, so she reverts to her Force powers and tries to off-balance Dooku. But he easily matches her Force abilities with his own. She would then re-engage her opponent with her lightsaber, only to get her saber staff cut in half. At which point, Dooku would strike Satele on her side, but she would absorb the blow using Tutu Menace and would be thrown backwards. Dooku would then use Force lightning against her and would make her weaker and weaker until eventually he'd be able to strike her down. we declared Count Dooku, Darth Tyrannus of the Sith, the victor. Now remember that this is just our opinion, but we'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below or on Google+. Also, if you have any suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comment section or on Google+. And make sure to subscribe to Hondo Moonrazer. His channel will be linked in the description. He makes first series videos and they are amazing, so go check out his channel and subscribe to him. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you. Always.